All right, good evening. We are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our State of the School. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. We're going to start with some remarks from our board chair. So Tanya, take it away.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, my name is Tanya Golisarian. I'm chair of the Board of Trustees of Seacrest School. Over the past year, I have felt an extraordinary sense of fortune to be part of the Seacrest community. Together, we have found ourselves in these new, unprecedented circumstances. The global pandemic has affected all of our families, our school, our communities, our businesses, and our way of life. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to thank the selfless healthcare workers that are on the front lines in our community, helping those that are in need. Our hearts are going out to anybody that's been impacted by the virus, either directly or indirectly. I'd like to thank the Seacrest teachers, staff, and administration for working so hard to not only keep our children in school, whether it be in person or distance learning, but for teaching them to try something new and step out of their comfort zones and discover new tools for learning, being creative, staying resilient, and most importantly, supporting each other. I'd finally like to thank the Seacrest community, all of you that are here tonight, for your diligence and your patience and your hard work in supporting our children, families, our teachers, our staff, our community, and each other. So tonight I'm here to talk a little bit about the role of the board. I want to spend a few minutes sharing what the board has been doing this year also. The Board of Trustees upholds and promotes the mission of Seacrest School, holding fiduciary responsibility for the school's long-term health. The board meets every other month throughout the school year. There are 4 key areas of board activity. They include planning, policy, finance, and collaboration. So the planning part is the board develops and monitors Seacrest's strategic plan and the school's progress towards meeting its goals and objectives. So here is the slide for this, the 4 key areas. For policy, the board reviews and establishes policies for the operation of the school. In the area of finance, the board stewards the school's financial assets and approves Seacrest's annual budget, which includes setting tuition for the following year. And finally, and very importantly, collaboration. The board supports, retains, and advises the head of school. In our next slide, I'll show you that the board has several committees that meet in between board meetings and throughout the school year. This year, there are 6 board committees. The head of school support and evaluation committee supports Ms. Miller in meeting her strategic goals. The finance committee evaluates unique financial issues associated with COVID-19, while continuing to identify the resources necessary to ensure long-term financial sustainability for the school. The Committee on Trustees develops leadership plans that strengthen the Board of Trustees. The Development Committee is right now creating a strategic development program to cultivate long-term sustaining relationships and to enhance the culture of philanthropy among Seacrest Schools families. The Strategic Planning Committee is identifying authentic methods this year. The goal is identifying authentic methods to increase cultural competency and inclusivity in the school community. It's a big focus for this year, and it will continue to operate that way to implement that, which is an essential part of our strategic plan. The Master Facilities Committee is updating the Master Facilities Plan to align with the school's sustainability and programmatic strategic objectives. I'd next like to talk about this role between the board and the head of school. So the board selects and annually evaluates the head of school. And then on the other side, the head of school is responsible for daily oversight and management of the school, disciplinary and personnel issues, and administrative and admissions decisions. The board works in partnership with the head of school to create the school strategic plan, while the head of school is responsible for overseeing its implementation. The head also works in partnership with the board to establish, uphold, and refine the school's missions and values, and to help articulate those to the students, faculty, staff, parents, alumni, and the wider community. Whereas the head of school is solely responsible for collaborating with faculty and staff to develop and maintain the academic programs that fulfill the school's mission. So that's a little bit about the Board of Trustees and the role of the Board of Trustees at Seacrest School and its relationship to the head of school. And before I close, I'd like to take a moment to celebrate the accomplishments that Seacrest School has achieved this year under the leadership of our head of school, Lauren Miller. The school has streamlined communication and created the Sunday Wave. We've also brought on Spark Student Learning and hired a student learning coordinator to support our students. We've opened schools successfully. In COVID obtained waivers in the first round. We've implemented protocols and routines, student and faculty testing, contact tracing, and facility upgrades on campus. We've successfully provided Seacrest families with a hybrid learning option where students are able to access their education from the classroom and from home. We have enhanced and invested in our technology through our partnership with Beehively Tech Support and upgrades to our systems and devices. The school has audited our math curriculum, JK through 8, and vetted new curriculums for adoption in the fall of 2021. The school has also prioritized professional development time dedicated to our work on diversity and inclusion. We have invested more time and energy into our social emotional learning curriculum, bringing mindfulness, meditation, executive functioning skills, and more into our daily practice school-wide. We have surpassed our goal for the annual fund this fall, and we'd like to thank the Seacrest community for their support. And finally, we've increased enrollment over the course of this year, welcoming 14 students, new students to our community. So the state of the Seacrest School is strong. We thank you for your support and for sharing your children with us, and we look forward to a bright future.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for kicking us off, sharing a little bit more insight into our board of directors and the functionality of the board. I must say that one of the main reasons I took the job at Seacrest about a year ago was because of this incredible board of directors who is strategic minded, purposeful, focused on the mission, and supportive in all aspects. And nothing has been more truer than the support and guidance that they've given myself and the administration team over the last 7 months as we have navigated COVID. So thank you to Tanya, her leadership, and the entire Seacrest board of directors. Switching gears a little bit, we are going to talk about where we are and where we started. So if you remember, this graphic of what, how, and why was on the very first slide that I shared at the back to school coffee way back in August on our first day of school. It also coincidentally was on the very first slide I shared with our faculty and staff on our very first in-service day many weeks before that, with the goal of using this year, despite all of the unknowns, to find, articulate, and understand our unique why. That is, what is it about Seacrest that makes it what it is? Not only what are we as an organization? How do we do the work that we do? But why do we do it? Why is our mission important? And why ultimately is Seacrest important for the students we serve today and the students we will end up serving in the future? That has been our guiding question as a institution, for me, for our faculty and staff, and for all the constituents that are looking at charting the course forward. So a little bit of a timeline. In the fall, when we were understanding our why, we asked ourselves the question, what do our students really need? What skills are essential for future success? And then more meaningful to this moment, how will we engage students in online learning? And what it should have said, but we weren't there quite yet, hybrid learning, flex learning, learning when some are on campus and some are gone, and then when all are on campus, maybe intentionally or unexpectedly, and then when all are back on campus, and all of the iterations of that. But how will we make sure we stay engaged and relevant and meaningful and there in those relationships between the teachers and the student? What we ended up this fall and this winter articulating were these were the needs that we need going forward. We need greater cohesion between our lower and middle school. We need to continue to work and dive into our curriculum and the alignment. And we need a uniquely Seacrest program. We have a lot of things that we love and we've all chosen to send our children here for, but what is unique about Seacrest? Taking those ideas, we have very exciting things to launch this fall that I'll dive into a little bit more on the future slides. The first one is new department level grouping and articulation, intention in our roles to support our students and curriculum, and a commitment to being student focused in every decision and everything we do each day. To start off, for that discovery and our new thing and our new direction is our new departmental groupings. So as you can see on this slide, we are going to be moving into a 3-department level structure. That is a primary department that is comprised of JK through 1st grade, a secondary department that is comprised of our 2nd through 4th grade, and an upper school department that is comprised of our 5th through 8th grade. These department articulations allows us to really hone in on our curriculum, our social emotional skills, academic milestones, and cross-grade level collaboration that's really developmentally appropriate for our students that we serve. We have spent the last few months discussing as an administration, a staff, and a faculty articulating these departments with their own vision statements. The faculty and staff is really enthusiastic and on board with these departments and the plan moving forward. So I wanted to share the faculty had vetted through these vision statements for our primary, secondary, and upper school departments. For the primary department, the word we want to focus on is the word excite. The primary program embraces a child's natural sense of wonder to spark the joy and love of learning. Students begin to build a strong foundation for literacy, number sense, and social emotional development. Our hands-on experiential approach excites students to explore, discover, learn, and grow. And if you're a current parent of a JK through 1st grade student, you know that this is happening each and every day in our classrooms and on Zoom. Even despite the confines that we have of COVID, you're seeing kids engaged, excited, taking their materials, being hands-on and deliberate in how they explore the learning and the world around them. Our next department is our secondary department, which is 2nd through 4th grade. The word that really embodies this department is enrich. The secondary program develops strong academic skills and lifelong learning through a project-based workshop model of instruction. Students grow in self-awareness and independence while learning to be supportive classmates, caring friends, and active members of the community. Our dynamic curriculum enriches students by offering the chance to discover new interests and explore cross-curricular opportunities for creative self-expression. Every day that I am walking down the southern halls of our classroom and checking in on the Zoom, you are seeing this happen, whether it's in the fourth grade class, them diving into their virtual math laboratory that their teacher has set up and taking a simple problem and having 18 different ways to solve it and methods, or the abundance amount of creative hands-on workshop model things that are happening coming out of the second grade classrooms. You can tell if you ever are in our parking lot, the amount of materials that a second grader carries back and forth to school, of cardboards and rulers, that they're diving in across curricular levels to explore and enrich their learning. Our upper school department, the word that really amplifies what the vision is the word empower. Our upper school program challenges and supports student growth through personalized approach to academic instruction and robust enrichment and extracurriculars. Students develop effective communication, self-advocacy, and critical thinking skills through engaging lessons, discussions, and collaborative projects. Our upper school experience empowers students to take risks through athletic, enrichment, and leadership opportunities, and to make a positive impact on the world around them. If you have a middle school student, you know that this is prevalent every single day. Kids are engaged, they are critical thinkers. They're asked to take material and question why, how, what, and what role that they themselves take in it. The independence and choice and voice that we want our graduates to leave with is the true embodiment of empower. Now, these vision statements for the different departments are meant to be reflective of the school that we have today and aspirational. We wanted to make sure that they were charging and guiding us forward, that they were giving us a real reflection of who we are, but also at the same time, who we want to be. More information about how these new departments will impact curriculum and your child's experience going forward are going to be shared out in more webinars and town halls throughout the coming weeks and months. But we're so excited to have this new articulation to really hone in, as I mentioned before, on each individual child and their moment at Seacrest School. Moving on from our grade level articulation, we really wanted to dive into our curriculum. A goal is to assess and align our curriculum from the JK through 8 experience with an intentional focus. So starting next year, Michelle Giacoto, our lower school director, will be overseeing curriculum and learning progression across all grade levels, taking and threading that needle from early literacy with our 4-year-olds all the way through our 8th graders, and so forth through all of the subject matters. Stephen Holzer, who I'm very thrilled will be sharing with us in a few minutes, will be chairing the math department. Stephen came to us this year with a robust resume and experience in not only being a math teacher, but really a math coach and a math articulator. He is someone that is able to not only see the students that he's teaching in front of him, but really the breadth and depth of how a school can articulate and teach math across multiple grade levels. And we're thrilled to welcome back to our school Kate Dickey, who will be chairing the Marine Science and Coastal program that we will be launching in the fall. So to dive a little bit more into these exciting programs, I'm really thrilled to introduce Stephen Holzer. Some of you may know him as Mr. Holzer, your child's fifth grade teacher. Some of you have gotten to experience him maybe through other avenues, but not as much on a whole scale. So I'm really thrilled to have Stephen with us, and he's going to talk a little bit more about math, what we've been doing this year, and what we're looking for moving forward. So, Stephen.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So just a quick thank you for that introduction, Lauren. Just a little bit more about myself. For those of you who don't know me, my primary role is at Seacrest as the grade 5 math and science teacher. But my secondary role this year is, as Lauren was saying, supporting the school, the lower school, and now the middle school, and really thinking big picture about how we can really foster a coherent math program. So that every child from JK all the way through 8th grade has a really comprehensive experience. I'm incredibly fortunate to have worked with and learned from some of the most incredible math educators on the planet, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm that lucky. And I've had a wealth of different experiences as an instructional coach, academic dean, content coach. Prior to here, I was also consulting a bit, so I've been working in public, private, international, and I've just lived an incredibly, had an incredible lucky career so far. And so what we've been doing in math this year, I'm very proud to say that we've, no matter the circumstances, right, remote, hybrid, on campus, pandemic, notwithstanding, we've been having regular internal professional development workshops. And I remember talking with, Lauren and Michelle in August, and we were like, yeah, maybe we'll do like one of these per trimester, right? And I'm happy to say we've done, I think, about 10 so far this year, which has just been amazing. And honestly, one of the things that I look forward to most every few weeks. And what we've been focusing on in the first trimester is this idea of reasoning routines, which we can also think about as thinking routines. So again, oftentimes when we think about math, a lot of us learned kind of very traditionally, oh, pencil, paper, computation, it's all about getting the right answer. And as we've started to kind of redefine what it means to learn mathematics, we actually realized that's only really one small part of what it means to truly learn mathematics and understand it deeply. So those are different things that, Lauren, can you go back? Thank you. That any teacher in any grade can implement, right? Anything to kind of start our class. And then in trimester 2, we've been just doing a really internal analysis about what is the math program that we've had adopted at Seacrest, and as well as what other curricular resources have we been using over the past couple of years, and really taking kind of the emotion out of it. And this isn't about our subjective opinions. It's really around, what are the strengths and what are the inherent limitations of any kind of curricular materials. And once we do that, then we can start to think more critically about, what materials might be a even better fit for Seacrest moving forward. So thinking about next year, as Lauren was mentioning a bit earlier, we're really looking forward to adopting a program that we think is really going to fit Seacrest perfectly. And again, that can feel a little bit scary. Any change is always a little bit scary, but I can assure you, I've worked at dozens of schools in my career, and I've worked with countless different types of curricular materials. And the current curriculum that we're piloting in all grades, JK through 8th grade, are going to be piloting this curriculum. I really think this is the best fit, not just for the school and the mission and the values of Seacrest, not just for the students at Seacrest, but also for the teachers at Seacrest. And I think those are really all the big things that we need to consider moving forward. So I will be supporting the math teachers next year. And how do we implement this, right? And Michelle and I often kind of joke about, right? Like you can have the greatest, most high quality resources, but if the facilitation, isn't highly skilled, then really what is the impact that really has on teaching and learning? So not only will, we'll be implementing this curriculum, but I'll be supporting teachers in how to facilitate, their math classes in a highly skilled fashion. And of course, this is not something that can happen in one year. right? So this is something we think about 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line. We want to be able to look back and say, whichever teachers are at Seacrest 10, 20, 30 years from now, we want to have a system of coaching in place where teachers feel really comfortable implementing these resources. And not to say in a cookie cutter way, like every teacher is going to be able to adapt to his or her style. But we do need this level of coherence from JK all the way to 8th grade. So what that means is I'll be planning and actually co-teaching some lessons with teachers, and of course reflecting is a critical part of anytime we try anything new. And again, we'll be thinking about what is the role of the teacher and the role of the student. And something that you may hear kind of in circles of educators is who's doing the quote unquote heavy lifting, right? And I've talked with parents and teachers about this, and oftentimes as adults, our instinct is to really, support kids when they need help. But oftentimes the more support we give them, we're actually hindering them in the long term. And we're actually doing a lot of the thinking for them. And that's really where problem solving lies. So we want to make sure kids are doing the majority of the thinking all of the time. And then we're also want to think about, mathematics is incredibly complex, these big ideas. So when I say pedagogical content knowledge, like as adults, teachers, we need to actually understand the content for ourselves really deeply if that's our hope for our students. So thinking about, what are the big ideas and mathematical models and strategies underlying the content of your grade level? And not just that, but how does the human brain actually develop their understanding of these big ideas over time? Right. And big ideas aren't something that can be learned in one day. Even if you have the most highly skilled facilitator on this planet, that's just not how the human brain works. So this can take days, weeks, months, and oftentimes years. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the beautiful kind of journey. And that's why it's really critical we have this coherence, JK through 8th grade.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We are beyond thrilled to have Stephen this year. I know I speak on behalf of all the math teachers at our school that have felt such support from Stephen, inspired by the strategies and new tips that he's brought to all of our math classes, and really excited for the future to dive in deeper into our math program and understand how each grade holds a puzzle piece of that information along the way. The next person I'm really excited to introduce may be a familiar face to some of you. Kate Dickey was a teacher here many years ago, and we are beyond thrilled to welcome her back to our Seacrest community, and equally as thrilled to officially announce the launch of a new program, a keystone program for us here at Seacrest School, which is marine science. So Kate, we are thrilled to have you, and Kate will be speaking about this new, very exciting program that we will be offering.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Dickey, and I am excited to be here tonight and to get to talk to you a little bit about the marine and coastal science program for next year. Just a little background on myself. My family and I have lived here on the coast for about 10 and a half years now, here in Half Moon Bay. And my background, my master's degree is in experiential education. And I've taught both in the science classroom and also in the lower school classroom. And actually, a number of years ago, taught in second grade classroom, the lower school classroom here at Seacrest. And as anybody who has been here for any period of time, I would say probably even during this crazy year, you know that once Seacrest is kind of in your fiber, it's very hard for it to get out. So I'm very, very excited to be back and to be a part of this program. And I'm really, really, really excited to share with you a little bit about the marine science program. And to start off, I think, there's a lot of things to share with you, but I want to kind of invite you to be excited tonight, moving forward as we're thinking about things and as you're hearing things and as we begin the year next year. This marine and coastal science program could not be more relevant. And I think even probably as you see this, or if those of you have kind of already been percolating on this idea, this is such a relevant program for our students. And it's relevant because it is exactly, we live in this beautiful place, and we are, we're living in this place where we have birds that are migrating literally over our heads and beside us. We have whales that are migrating along our coastline. Currently, we have this, if we would go, I'm not at Seacrest right now, but if you would go due west from Seacrest, you're at Wavecrest Open Space, which has like one of the greatest overwintering raptor populations, right? We've got the critical, historically, we've got the critical Western monarch. I have 5 to 7 minutes, so I'm not going to go through all the migrations, but what I mean is we're in this incredible place. And so it's this idea of this program couldn't be more incredible. And also, here we are in a critical time where this couldn't be more important either, right? And I think we all can acknowledge that. And in a community that is primed for this. So I'm really excited to be part of it. I'm really excited to be helping to put this together right now. And as we're looking at it, I kind of want to explain to you the pieces of how it's coming together and sort of the most important parts. And the pieces that we're currently putting together and the foundation of the program are sort of 3 parts. One of them is the classroom curriculum. And the classroom curriculum, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't leave things out, but the classroom curriculum, it's really critical that this is place-based and that it is a curriculum that the kids are interacting with daily, that they're interacting with in their daily lives, whether they're in school or not, that it's concentrated in specific study. So we will have specific areas of study per grade, per division. Some of that, starting really local with the kindergarten, JK and kinder, looking at where am I in the watershed, looking at examining their own storm drain and where do I relate to the ocean? And then moving from there to looking at our shores, looking at the beaches and looking at the birds and things that are there, but also looking at kind of the combination between biotic and abiotic factors that are right there in our tide pools, and what's right here in the beaches that were there, what's channeling into the ocean right there, and then moving from there to look at again, moving into the wetlands and seeing sort of that interplay, and looking back out at the open ocean and marine mammals, and looking at the carbon cycle and how we relate to climate change and all of those things. And another sort of specific piece, I guess, for this is that it is rooted in phenomena. So the idea is that students are learning and they're learning things through the ideas that are coming. What are the problems that they're seeing, and what are they observing, and moving from there versus us saying, so this is a star, this is a sea star, and this is what happens. Really looking and getting them to come to it from that standpoint of examining phenomena. The second part is the field experience, and that's something that we've been putting a fair amount of energy into, thinking about what is authentic experience, what are our authentic field experiences that we can be having right here on the coast, and when we think about service, that is authentic and that is related to the community, and that is something that we will hopefully build an incredible reputation, but also an incredible interconnectedness with the community around us. Both environmentally and as a community. And then the third piece is community, and that's the kind of the fun part, because when we think about that, we think of already there's beauty in how Seacrest is as a community anyway, right? The learning buddies and the Friday assemblies and the learning celebrations and all those things that are already a part of this become so much richer when we have a program like this, where we can be interacting with purpose that's directed throughout the year and throughout the years from JK to 8th grade, right? That the kids that are, as you progress and you're learning about these different subject areas and these different phenomena, and then when you're in 8th grade, being able to have conversations with a 3rd grader, right? And that you are this much further along to be able to work with them in that way. And we have a lot of really kind of neat interaction points for that. And then also part of it, the other part of community obviously is you guys and the families and us and those of us raising children and educating children, right? It's us coming together to celebrate, to learn, to share about the environment around us. And learning about the oceans that are right here. So part of that is going to be in celebration. Part of that is going to be in learning, the sharing of learning. And part of that's going to be in our ask to you that, we're because this is a pilot year, this is so important that we're going to be, the foundation is solid, and that we will have a pretty sound system for how we're going to be doing it this year. But there's current events all the time, right? And you're going to have connections, and you're going to have ideas and things. And so we ask that if you now and along the way, to please share that information with us as we go. And I say you can direct that to me. I think we're all the same. You just use our first and last name to send us information. So if you please don't assume that I know anything. So if you find some really cool things that are happening, and it's happening locally or nationally or internationally, that you think is interesting, send it, please. And if your child is sharing something that is really interesting, wondering, those are the things that we will embrace as the program kind of moves forward. So ask that you are as involved, sort of a challenge by choice, the idea that you can be as involved as you want to be, and our hope is that you will be greatly involved. I know that I'm kind of going over time, so I'll let Lauren share a little bit about the next steps with the science lab too.
Well, thank you, Kate. We are so excited to be launching Marine and Coastal Science for the school in the fall. Starting this Sunday in the Wave, there will be a Marine and Coastal Science section between now and really next year, but especially between now and the next 6 weeks, we're going to be sharing a lot of details about our planning of the program and of the new lab that we will be building this fall, the local events, information, and development as we go through. You can see in the bottom right corner of your screen, and I'll talk a little bit more when we share kind of upcoming events, but we will be doing Coast Week this year. And with that, we will be doing a paddle race to help support and bring marine and coastal science to life for all of our kids. We are just thrilled. Those elements that we just shared are just a sliver, because we really didn't want to keep you here for 4 hours. So that's just a mere sliver of the what in that circle that we teach. Moving inwards from that discovery of the what is going to be how. How we teach is just as important as what. And what we've really discovered this year is teaching to challenge and support our diverse set of learners is really part of the fabric of our school. Our goal today, and will be moving forward, is to meet each learner where they are and provide as much of an individualized experience as possible. What that looks like going forward and today is continue to really lean into our social emotional learning and lean into diversity and inclusion across all grade levels, across our curriculum, our practices, the time in our day that is committed to these topics, all of the above. We are also really looking at differentiation beyond just our singular classroom walls to challenge and support learners. This may look like, and is not limited to, pull-out groups, push-in groups, especially focused in language arts and math. Part of that new departmental articulation of primary, secondary, and upper is to provide more fluidity between those grade levels for the arc of learning that happens. If you're a parent that has a primary student, actually, all of you are either a parent of a primary student or were a parent of a primary student, you know that one of the things that's really unique about an independent school is that it isn't broken up in a bureaucracy of standardized tests and benchmarks that could be somewhat arbitrary on a birthday or on funding or on a secular cycle of how something works. What I'm talking about is I was a kindergarten teacher for many, many years. And every time I would give a tour or interact with a new parent, all of these anxieties and questions would come up about readiness. Is my 4-year-old ready for kindergarten? Well, if you've ever stepped foot into a kindergarten classroom at the beginning of August, you know you will have a group of students that can read every single thing on the wall. When they were 3 years old, you took them to the market and they started reading the board above the deli. They can devour, and they tell you that they read Harry Potter over the summer. We don't really know why, but that's where they are. And then you will have a group of students that are kind of looking at the sky, and they are feeling the texture of the carpet, and they know there's letters, and they know that those letters make sounds, but you know what? They're not really there on that journey yet. They are still really in the self-discovery. And then you have all those beautiful fishies in the middle that are somewhere in between. It's a natural arc. All of us as parents, especially those with multiple kids, know we have one that may be at a certain milestone, got up and walked across the room, and one that we're calling the pediatrician, and we're very concerned, and they're like, don't worry, they all walk. All of them end up walking. Well, that's really also about learning, but it's individualized. And it's important for an independent school to meet the moment and the needs of the student, to offer support and to challenge, but to not crush, to keep that excitement of learning from the very beginning. So all of this goes back to those new departmental articulation. So when we talk about primary, secondary, and upper, we know that it's actually a beautiful arc of taking 4-year-olds all the way to the end of first grade to hit those milestones, that it's not singular happening in those divisions, and so far and so on through the other departments. So when I talk about differentiation, that means there could be much more fluidity between JK and first, second and fourth, fifth and sixth, seventh and eighth, to meet the needs of students across levels, across departments, and across curriculum. We're going to continue to be committed to focus on student learning services. You might be sick of hearing me say this. I'm going to beat this drum again and again and again. We know that 1 in 5 students is identified with challenges, and we know that 1 in 3 struggles in some area of school across the time that they're in elementary and middle school. We want diverse learners in our classroom. And on the other side of that, we want teachers that know how to reach and teach diverse learners. Investing in our support services, investing in the commitment to having teachers have as many tools in their toolbox to reach all kinds of learners is an absolute commitment by myself and the school moving forward. We're excited that we'll be bringing a school counselor to our campus. This is a need that we have not only for this year, but for all of the years going forward. It was highlighted by this year. Not only are there tragedies that families and students and teachers face, but there's overall health and wellness that we're really excited to have an expert help guide us through as a community. And lastly, next year, we're going to take a deep dive, take a hard look at ourselves, and assess and audit how we assess, report, and share student learning. That doesn't mean we're getting rid of anything, but we're going to really ask those critical questions. If we are student-centered and we're about the individualized experience, is that reflected in how we test, how we assess, how we do report cards, how we do conferences? Are we confining ourselves to the model of school, or is it really individualized to the Seacrest way? So those are the kind of questions that you'll see our team really diving into and sharing out over the course of next year. And that really is the how in our circle that we've been looking at. That gets us to that golden little inner circle why. It might have been on the nose, and we might not have had to spend the last 7 months and hours of meetings to discover that the why is our kids. That's why we're here. Not only our kids that are in our walls and in our Zooms right now, but our graduates, our change agents, our kids that leave us after the course of maybe 1 year or maybe 11 years, and they go out and they make their mark on the world in their unique way. This is a list of some of the things that our Seacrest graduates are. They are lifelong learners, they're passion seekers, they're community builders, they're courageous creators, they're critical thinkers, they're self-aware, they're respectful communicators, they're innovative problem solvers, and they're ethical leaders. When I look at this list and I think about all of the things that are happening in our world right now, boy, do we need Seacrest graduates more than ever. And so that is our why. That is our nugget in the very golden circle that we build everything back for. That is what guides us to decide we need to have marine science, because we need to have our students understand the importance of that resource outside our door. We need student learning support services. We need to lean into diversity and inclusion, and students to have empathy and ethics and civics. We need these things because our graduates are these kinds of people. So the vision for Seacrest moving forward, the highlights. There's a lot more, obviously, but here's the highlights. A seamless JK-8 experience for students and families, teaching to challenge and support our diverse sets of learners, to meet each of them where they are and provide an individualized experience, to really embrace our location on the coast and use it to the fullest extent for our place-based learning opportunity. And really, the one thing that we're all missing and mourning is our community. The fact that we're doing this via Zoom and not in the activity center right now, where afterwards we get to mingle and interact and be with each other. So we're very hopeful and excited for the time that we can re-engage in a in-person way post-pandemic. That is a little bit of where we've gone over the last 7 months from our what, how, and why, and the journey that we've been on. And obviously there's so much more to it, but we're really excited to give you that little glimpse and dive in a little bit more. We're gonna switch gears a little bit and talk dollars and cents. We're going to talk about the financial health of the school and where we are, because we are all equal buy-ins for this institution. So I'm really thrilled to have Jackie Cuvier. Many of you may know her, whether she is helping you, guide you through any sort of issue at school or taking temperatures out front. She is our Director of Finance and Operation, and she will guide us through a snapshot of where we are right now.
Thank you, Lauren, and hi, everyone. Good evening. You may not recognize me without my mask on because you see me every morning, but it's great to be here this evening. As Tanya mentioned, the board approves the annual budget every year, and my job in my role is to make sure that we're spending to our plan. I work closely with Lauren on all spending decisions, and we just wanted to give you the opportunity to see where we're at this point in the year. As you can imagine, it was a very interesting year to start the school with so much uncertainty. The board actually approved our current year budget in January of 2020, when COVID-19 was a blip on the radar screen and we had no idea what was to come. Obviously, we have had to adjust and pivot quite a bit, and here you can see a snapshot of where we are today. On the expense side, on the right, our salaries and benefits are obviously the largest part of our spending, and building and facilities are another one. And between the two of those, those are mostly fixed costs. So once we start the school year with the staff we have and the facilities we have in place, that is a nut that we have to crack every year. On the revenue side, you can see that tuition pretty much makes up the building and facilities and salaries and expense line items. So our tuition covers 89% of our budget, and we are a nonprofit, and so fundraising is really important to us. It funds about 10% of our operating plan, and everyone in the community is critical in helping us to bridge the gap every year. It's really exciting to see the plan that is laid out for next year and what Lauren has got the team moving in the right direction. I'm really excited about the program offerings, and the tuition and the fundraising are key to making that happen. I did want to point out that COVID-19 has been very expensive for our school. So by the end of the school year, we will have spent about $300,000 on direct costs and capital purchases to safely operate our school during the pandemic. We're very fortunate that the board of Seacrest and the finance committee has built reserves and has, Seacrest is in a strong financial position. And so we were able to ride out this storm, and I'm feeling really good about where we ended up this year. I'm really proud of the hard work that everyone's done to keep the school open and still somehow balance our budget. So it's been incredible. Lauren, you want to move to the next slide? So in our normal budget cycle, about 6 weeks ago, the board approved our budget for next school year, which includes the tuition rates that you see here. Every year we work really hard to deliver the quality program that everyone has come to expect. And we also try to keep our tuition rates as affordable and reasonable as possible, especially during this year when we know so many families in our community have been hit hard by the pandemic that we're experiencing. We've tried really hard to keep the tuition rates, the increase from prior year, as modest as possible. I do want to point out that our enrollment season kicks off tomorrow. So you will receive re-enrollment contracts for your children for next school year. So look out for those emails tomorrow. We encourage people to sign your contract by the due date, which will be March 16th. That's a Tuesday. We do offer a $200 discount per child for returning your contracts in by that time. As you can imagine, our budget hinges very heavily on our enrollment. And so the sooner that we have more confidence in our enrollment numbers for the following year, the better we can plan for next year. In particular, our staffing is a really big component of that. So I encourage you to take advantage of that discount. And if you have any questions about next year or your enrollment contracts, feel free to reach out to me. You know where to find me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. So looking forward, taking all of that information in. At the top, you see, as Jackie mentioned, re-enrollment launches tomorrow. Just to reiterate, because sometimes it takes multiple times for it to sink in, the sooner we get enrollment contracts back, the more we have a clear picture for the future. We feel so proud as a school that we are talking to you right now in March, and we're actually not really talking about COVID. We're talking about programs and curriculums and innovation and invention and new things for our kids. All of that to us is a huge feather in our cap that we've been able to make it to this point despite the pandemic. But to be able to adequately plan, to put all of these great visions and ideas into place, we need to have a picture. So if you know that you're going to join us, please do take the time to fill out the enrollment agreement. If you are on the fence for any reason at all, please reach out to me directly. If you've had an issue at the school and you've talked to me, you can ask a friend. I'm pretty approachable. I'm a pretty nice gal, so please don't hesitate. I really want to talk it through with you and understand kind of everyone's situation is a little bit different. So those dates are there. Your email box will have more information in the morning. As you can see, we have 3 big events coming up to take us to the end of the year. The Marine Science Program, which we shared a little bit about. As I mentioned, the WAVE will have more each week. April 19th to the 23rd, we are still going to honor Coast Week. So we're going to be doing a virtual beach cleanup in partnership with the Pacific Beach Coalition. It's so cool. The kids are going to each be able to track the trash that they help clean up on a beach. And we're going to be able to graph and monitor what our progress and the impact our little school can have on our coastal community. And while we're doing that, we're going to have a virtual paddle race in place of where our normal paddle race happens to help get our marine science lab and program up and running and in place for all of our students to enjoy in the fall. We're very excited that we are going to have a friend and fundraiser that's a safe alternative to our annual gala this year. That's a golf tournament. So we have an amazing committee that has been working behind the scenes very hard of parent volunteers and our development committee from the board on putting this golf tournament together. More information will be coming out in the coming weeks, so look for that as well. And then lastly, our Ginger Girvin Run, where students will continue the tradition of running to raise funds for flexible tuition. This year, the run will be in small group cohorts safely outside during the school day. The event will be live streamed, so everyone can enjoy. Grandparents, friends can zoom in and see what it's about. All for one, run for all. It's a great opportunity to end the school year in a collaborative, fun, get out there and be outdoors kind of way. So look forward to those events coming up. I just finally want to take a moment to personally thank everyone in the Seacrest community. As I mentioned earlier, a year ago when I interviewed for the job, the school was different, the world was different, everything seemed so different, and yet it's all so the same. The reason that my husband and my two children and I moved down here and left the school and the community and our friends that we knew and loved is because we so felt a connection to the mission and the values and the community here at Seacrest. And even despite the fact that we've been estranged and only been able to interact behind masks or via Zoom, it has felt true to me every day. As your new head of school, I have felt welcome, supported, inspired by the teachers that I get to interact with, and all of the above. As a parent myself, my husband and I could not be more thrilled. We know that our kids are loved, they're seen, they're challenged, they're given easy wins throughout the day to feel good about themselves. And then just when they think, the teacher pushes them a little bit more to hit their potential. They come home from school every day with stories, with things that they learned. And as a parent, that couldn't fill me with more joy. It also has been really reaffirming that all of the weird things that we've had to do this year really are for that why, for Seacrest students. So thank you for sticking with us for this hour, for showing your commitment and investment to the school. We're so proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish. And check your email tomorrow. There'll be more information coming up. Stay safe, stay healthy. We're not out of the woods yet, but also get outside and enjoy this wonderful spring weather that we've been having. Have a great evening. Thank you.